Good morning, everybody, and welcome to a special Halloween edition of Coffee and Football presented by Rick Ballbro and Austin Underground. I'm your host, Blake Monroe, where I'm joined each and every morning by Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton. Tell us where you're checking in from, what you're drinking, get your questions in. We're going to get to all those here in a little bit. But lots of festivities going on this morning, obviously.
It is Halloween. It is Halloween. Bobby Petrino, look-alike there. Blake Monroe.
That's right. I want to give everybody a chance just to go through the costumes here. We'll start with Jerry since I was on there first, but obviously a Florida State fan.
Yeah, look, if I'm in Florida hitting high school, so I figured I got to be the Florida State fan today. 1-7, headed into the 2-10 type of season. You know, I'm a DJU fan today.
For those that are listening just on the podcast, Jerry is currently wearing a Florida State T-shirt with a bag over his like an old New Orleans Saints fan.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Oh, my goodness.
SEC ref.
Yeah, flag. Yeah, there's Kelvin Banks. Gunnar Helm. Cam Williams, false start. Connor holding. Yeah, got them all. We got them all. The SEC flag happy. Yeah, had to do that this morning, guys.
Definitely. Well, lots of, like I said, a lot going on right here on Texas football, but it's the bye week for Texas. What's going on with Texas?
The Longhorns were practicing today and yesterday. The coaches will actually be out on the road tomorrow. The players get a couple days off. They will, of course, still be on campus. They're not many of them are going home right now. So it's a big do or die weekend. Do or die is not the right word for this weekend in the SEC. I made a mention of this on Texas football this morning. A lot of teams, Jerry and Blake, are higher in the rankings, but going on the road in the SEC. A&M favored, but going to South Carolina for a night game. Ole Miss favored, but going to Arkansas early in the week. Vanderbilt, higher ranked right now, at least in the SEC, going to Auburn. Vanderbilt's even giving points in that game. Point being, A&M, Vanderbilt, and Ole Miss, higher ranked in the SEC, but going on the road. And then, of course, we have Florida, Georgia lined up as well. That should be a good one in Jacksonville. So
I know we'll hit on the injury report some, but Jaquindon Jackson out for Arkansas, the running back from Duncanville, former Texas assignee. He's out, has a bad ankle. They're probably trying to get him. They're trying to get him healthy for the Texas game. Florida, that injury report's impactful for the Texas game because Jason Marshall, their best corner, is now out for the season. They have a number of other injuries right now. Eugene Wilson, their best wide receiver, who had a knee scope earlier in the year. He's been in and out of the lineup, hadn't been full speed. He's out this week. RJ Moten, the linebacker, is ankle injury. He's questionable. They have a lot of injury issues right now. Jakeem Jackson was one of their other top corners. He's been out most of the season. Headed into Georgia, they have injury issues. What are they going to look like coming out?
I can't take you seriously with that bag on your head while you're talking. I just can't. You look like it looks like a wrestler, Mil Mascaras, back in the day with the slants in the eyes there. He always had that mask that was like crazy. Oh, boy. Jerry, you were out and about in Florida yesterday. Went and saw the linebacker out of Sefner Armwood that Texas offered earlier this week. Any updates on recruiting of note right now? Longhorns in on more out-of-state guys than they are in-state guys as we try to close out this recruiting cycle right now.
Yeah, for sure. I saw Kellen Wiley yesterday, the linebacker from Sefner Armwood, one of the fastest rising seniors in the country, 6'4", 226 in person, 6'3 and a half, 6'3 3/4 without shoes on probably. 226 in person, 79 and a half, 80-inch wingspan, 10 and a half inch hands. It was easy to see. He's also played some tight end. He's got really good hands naturally, but he's a linebacker, outside backer prospect. Jeff Banks is the reason this kid was offered. He's recruited Sefner Armwood for years, dating back to Jerome Ford. running back from Sefner, signing with Alabama in the 2018 class. So Jeff Banks has some built-in relationships there at the school. Jeff Banks, PK, will be at the Armwood game Friday against Riverview High School. He's a kid that, look, I think Miami's the leader right now. He'll make an official visit to Texas November 9th, probably Maryland the 16th, and Miami the 23rd. He's also going to be at the Florida-Georgia game this weekend, as Florida's offered and recruiting him as well. But this is a kid that'll be 6'4", 245, 250, and is athletic and long arm, big hands kid. He's an aggressive player. They also have their inside linebacker, Cameron White, who's been a UCF commit. He's visiting Michigan this weekend. Texas has also taken a look at him. He is more of the inside linebacker, natural inside backer. So they're going to give him an evaluation as well. But Kellen Wiley is a kid that he is really fast rising. Alabama also offered him during his senior season, a couple others. But I love his upside as a player. We'll see if Texas can get with this recruitment. Miami offered him earlier, has been on him consistently. Kellen Wiley does have an aunt that attended the University of Texas, but he's never been to Texas, never been on campus before. So that November 9th visit for the Florida game will be his first time ever at the University of Texas. But again, Jeff Banks, PK, they're scheduled to be by the school and at the game Friday as Texas makes a run here, one of the fastest rising seniors linebackers in the country.
I love some of these comments people are putting out here. Oh, goodness gracious. Aggies, this is a good one for Halloween. The Aggies give out boiled eggs for Halloween. Good stuff, guys. Good stuff, man. Hey, Blake, we also had some NFL draft talk we wanted to get into a little bit because PFF put out a list recently where 3 Longhorns apparently going in the top 25 of this NFL draft, even with some of the ups and downs of this season. Give people a little info on who those guys are.
Yeah, so as Bobby said, PFF did come out with a draft here in the past day or two, and 3 Longhorns. We'll start with number 9, Miami. They have them projected to take Kelvin Banks, offensive tackle, of course, for Texas, with the number 9 pick. And then if I can get it up here, my computer's not cooperating this morning.
That wasn't a problem for Bobby Petrino.
Yeah. Oh my God. Number 17, the San Francisco 49ers selecting offensive tackle Cameron Williams. And then they follow that up with number 25, Pittsburgh Steelers taking wide receiver Isaiah Bond. So 3 horns there in the first round, according to PFF.
All preseason, we heard that Quinn Ewers would be in this category. He's clearly the one that's not in there now that was in the preseason, but the rise of Cam Williams continues. I wonder how much Cam Williams is going to get dinged for, flags holding and jumping off sides, that sort of thing. In all seriousness, no, he's had a couple of really good games and a couple of games where he's been exposed in one-on-one blocking. Now, that is not abnormal. A lot of people get exposed one-on-one. But the fact that other people are starting to see what many people are talking about right now, Cam Williams going in the first round, that means Texas next year, guys, going to have to probably replace both starting tackles. It's going to be a big deal.
Well, I think the thing with Cam Williams is, look, we kind of go through this with drafts all the time. And people, I think sometimes it's, he's not really play like a first-round pick. Yeah, but these guys draft different. They may see Cam Williams as a guard his first 2 years in the NFL and they kick out the tackle. They see the upside. They see where he can go. They see these things, I think, differently than we do on Saturdays. And Cam Williams' upside is definitely that. Now, he may be guard in the NFL. Look, Leonard Davis played guard in the NFL, played at a high level in the NFL. So, I mean, it's it's not always what he does on every Saturday. It's the upside and where they think he can go as a prospect. And I do think that puts Cam Williams in the first round conversation. I've been saying that all year. He may just start his career guard and then as he matures and gets more experience, kick out to a right tackle long term. But he may just be a really good guard in the NFL too.
Hey, look, Leonard Davis.
Yeah.
Was that? I mean, Leonard Davis was drafted as a tackle, played guard primarily his entire career, and was a great one. I think he had 10 plus years in the NFL. And so there's to Jerry's point, there's a precedent for that. Really good one.
And we're going to talk some more NFL draft here in just a second, guys. But first, let me tell everyone about Austin Underground. And Rick Valvro and the folks at Austin Underground have specialized in difficult underground installations since 2004. Their extensive engineering background gives them the ability to perform work that many other firms consider too risky. They offer an end-to-end client experience that includes seamless communication, budgeting, staffing, top-notch trade partners, and solid quality work every single time. If you have a commercial project that needs a best-in-class solution, then be sure to contact Rick Valvro and the folks at Austin Underground. We want to thank them for sponsoring every Thursday right here on Coffee and Football. And guys, we talked about first rounders, but who are some of the other guys that could go early or even surprise some people?
We've talked about Gunnar Helm already. I think Alfred Collins is moving up those draft charts right now. Early in the season, we all thought, hey, maybe Vernon Broughton's the one doing that. But I think of late, we've seen kind of Alfred Collins separate in that category. Jerry's mentioned Jermaine Lole as a guy that has a draftable grade, according to the guys over at the Senior Bowl. So that's another one. Jerry, what about the ones that are interesting to me? And I have no clear-cut vision of this. It's and part of it's because I don't know how they're going to run, is Andrew Bakuba, right?
Yeah.
And Jade Barron. Where do they go? I mean, like anywhere from second to fifth? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I feel like, and I think it's going to depend on how well they run. But I mean, the NFL has corners and safeties that look exactly like them, and it just all goes to someone falling in love with one or two of them, right? I mean, is that how you see it?
Yeah, I think Barron's testing is going to be huge for him because the football player shows up on tape, right? People know, and also his versatility. I mean, he's played corner, he's played nickel. I think he could be a heck of a safety in the NFL. So he's got that versatility. So it's really going to come down to testing because Barron's going to be impressive when the teams meet with him as well. So he's going to knock all that out of the park. So it's really going to come down to the testing for him. The run, and I'm talking the 40, the 5-10-5, the L cone, all those things. I think he's going to test well from a strength perspective. Obviously, he's built like a running back these days. So I just think that's what's going to happen with him. Makuba, it's physical tackling, and he did very well early in the season with that, improved from where he was at Clemson. I think that's what the NFL scouts wanted to see from him his final year in college. So these last 4 games, he's going to be facing some big running backs. The freshman at Florida, Jaden Ball's 230-pounder, had 100 yards against Kentucky last week with Montrell Johnson being out. Jaquindon Jackson, big back, downhill back, right? A&M's got a couple of really talented backs. In Kentucky, their best back's hurt, but he's going to be tested playing the run. And I think that tackling is going to be big for him on tape because he's not as thick of a kid as a lot of guys that are going to play the safety position in the NFL. He's built more like a corner, so that taking on that physicality and tackling, because I think everybody knows he's really good in coverage. I think Gunnar Helm's going to be interesting. Again, it's going to come down to testing for him. The on-the-field tape is really good as a pass catcher. The athleticism after the catch, I think, has surprised even me some this year. So it's going to come down to testing for him as well. Alfred Collins, I think, is interesting, Bobby, because I think he'll test well. I think his play the last couple of weeks has been really high level, but maybe his best back-to-back games. He's been double-teamed more than the interior D lineman. So I think he's on the rise with NFL scouts as well. So that'll be interesting. If he finishes the season where the last couple of games have gone, he's got a chance to go higher than we all thought.
The other piece, somebody mentioned Jake Majors will get drafted. Yes, he will. I mean, what about the rest of the offensive line, Jerry? Does DJ Campbell go pro? That's a question. Certainly one that's worthy of consideration, given that we know that's his ultimate destination or where he wants to be. Hayden Connor as well. I mean, is he an undrafted free agent or is he a late round pick potentially? And then you have the receivers. We already mentioned Gunnar Helm, but the one that I would say is Isaiah Bond, first round grade. Where's Matthew Golden in that category?
I think Golden's a fifth round guy.
Is he early enough?
Yeah,
frankly, to want to go versus stay, because NIL will make a difference in that category. We've seen that, and we also have talked ad nauseum about Jaden Blue. The reality of it is, and Blake and Jerry, this is one thing that I really just appreciate is how many guys we're talking about. Yeah. I mean, there's a reason Texas is 7-1 right now. And we can say all we want about Steve Sarkisian and how he's built this program, but the players have went out and done it too. And they've got plenty of talent on this team right now. So I'm pretty impressed. And I think that next April, when the draft rolls around, I mean, we could be talking about double-digit Longhorns being drafted again. Which
no doubt.
Back-to-back that's pretty impressive.
Oh, some of these comments are killing me. Marco wants to know, at 6'4", does Banks have the arm length that is looked for from NFL tackles?
I think that is going to be when they get him under a microscope. Is he really 6'4", or is he 6'4" and change, or is he 6'3" and change? Those things are going to be very, very real and legitimate questions, I think. For me, Blake, the reality of it is his ability as a player is just more meaningful. I really believe that. And I think that that will ultimately lead him to being a first-round pick. You see all these mocks. It's not necessarily because he's the perfect-looking player. It's because he's that good of a player and has been since he got on campus, by the way. Jerry, you're back.
I had to remove the bag before I passed out on air. I don't think anybody needed to see that.
Oh, goodness. We got some more.
We got to say this. So before the show, we all decided, hey, we're gonna dress up for Halloween, and we told each other what we're gonna be. Jerry's comment to us as a group was, "Oh, I forgot. I'm on the road. I don't think I can pull off a costume." And then as soon as the countdown clock started, that's when he put the bag on and was the jilted Florida State fan, or the ashamed Florida State fan. That was great stuff, Jerry. Really.
Well, look, here's the other part of that. That was a woman's shirt I was wearing. So I'm not wearing an FSU shirt. So I bought something just at a Dick's Sporting Goods yesterday in the Tampa area. So woman's shirt, I'll find somebody to give it to. I don't know, but I wasn't going to wear it.
On your trip, you'll find someone.
No,
sure. Yes. Yeah.
I figured it was just from your weekend collection. I didn't know.
Oh, wow.
So we got some more.
I found the cheapest shirt I could. It was like $13.99.
We got some more draft related questions, guys. Zane Petty wants to know, where is Quinn right this second on draft boards?
Man, third, fourth round. I mean, I don't know. I mean, he has first round arm ability. How he plays the next 4 games, I think, and then into the playoffs if Texas gets there, are going to dictate that almost exclusively, because I think NFL teams at some level are perplexed by him. No different than some fans are. They look at Michigan and they go, "Ooh, we may have something here." Right? Then they look at Georgia and they go, "Ooh, we may not have anything here." I mean, literally, if it was daylight and dark. And so who really is Quinn? While Texas fans have a sense of the up and down nature of him a little bit based on who Texas is playing, I think that the next 4 games for him are incredibly important. How does he handle pressure? How does he handle things down the stretch? That's going to push him from either a first-round pick, because he still has that arm talent, guys. And if he can move around in the pocket a little bit better, he can still get there, to third, fourth round. where, hey, we're going to have to sit him a little bit and put him in the right position, in the right situation. So I think that's what we're looking at right now.
And
I think what's interesting too, there's so many pieces to the Quinn NFL talk for me. It's one, he's got an injury history, and he's going to get dinged for that because these guys go all the way back to high school now. That's the one thing you'd hope is he had a healthy final season in college football and can just make the most of his final season in college football. Then he gets an oblique injury, misses a couple of games, probably played through it, some injury here against Oklahoma. I think Florida may be the healthiest he's been since prior to the injury. So you have the injury history dating back to junior year of high school when he had the hernia surgery, missed half the year. So he's had a really rough injury luck over his career. Obviously, he got suplexed against Alabama on what should have been a flag. Bobby, throw the flag now since you have the SEC shirt. There you go. That should have been a flag back then. But he's had a rough injury history. I think what's what's going to be interesting when Quinn goes through the draft process. And Bobby, we saw it at the Pro Day last year. When he's out there just throwing a football, he doesn't have many misses.
Oh, no, he's terrific.
Tremendous. So those workouts are going to elevate him. And when he interviews, that's going to be impressive. It's going to elevate him again. What I think is going to be interesting is, and I think the A&M game is going to be a really big one for him on the road because they have a front four with multiple 5-6 future NFL draft picks on their front four, if we're being real. Is he needs to play well under duress in that game. Because the one thing I said about Georgia was that's every week in the NFL. That's 1 week in the college football season, maybe 2. That's every week in the NFL for these guys. I mean, so I think the other thing with Quinn is he's got whatever that is, whether it's boxing workouts, whatever he needs to do, he's going to have to maximize the reactive body quickness that he has. He obviously wasn't blessed with some of the reaction quickness of some other guys that are very successful in the NFL at quarterback. Whatever he's got to do to maximize that, he's going to have to do at the next level because that Georgia game's every week in the NFL.
So what do you think? So, Jerry, what do you think right now? 2nd through 4th for him or first round? What do you think?
Quarterbacks go higher in the draft every year because it's such a premium. I'll say 3rd to 2nd right now.
So top of mid to top of the 3rd to bottom of the 2nd, kind of.
But I'm telling you,
if someone falls in love with him, falls in love,
all it takes is one. Yeah. But the one thing I will guarantee out of this process is when he gets into the process and he just starts having the workouts, everybody's going to talk about how impressive it is watching him just throw the football in the workouts because he's very, very high in that regard.
Unbelievable. I mean, we saw him in the Pro Day. He was
just one throw in an hour.
Yeah, out of 80 throws. I mean, it was phenomenal. And we're not talking about 10-yard outs.
No.
It was
an NFL passing tree workout.
Yeah, it was impressive as hell. Yeah, no doubt.
By the way, guys, ESPN yesterday put out best landing locations for some of the top quarterbacks. And they actually had Quinn saying the 49ers or the Rams being the best possible location for Ewers to land.
He said this guy Munch says currently have a 2nd round grade on Ewers, which is interesting. So that's kind of where we were at, Jerry.
Yeah.
Just back of the envelope type thinking. But that's good stuff. Hey, I've got a question for y'all. Given my let me do an ad read, and then I've got a question about, and I want y'all to think about this. Given that I'm wearing a referee uniform today, the worst call you can remember going against Texas. The worst call you before we do that, I want to read this ad read, if you don't mind, from Tile. The folks, if you're traveling this holiday season, you're going to be worried about where your keys are, where your wallet is, making sure you don't get a pickpocket or even your phone, leaving it. If that is the case, make sure you have Tile alongside you. These Tile trackers allow you to keep tabs on you and your family and reduce your stress during the holidays. and it allows you to sync up with Life 360, which is an app that tells you where your young kids are, where everything else is. It not only tells you where they are in their phone, but also all of their other stuff like purses, wallets, etc. So if you've used Tile to find a lost item, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You can see the location of all the stuff you've tiled along with your family members on your Life 360 map. Less holiday stress for each and every one of you. Find your family's lost or stolen stuff almost immediately. Just ring your tile when something goes missing or track down its location on a map. Obviously, it helps with anti-theft. Unlike competitors, Tile won't alert thieves to its presence via notifications. Add your Tile trackers to your Life 360 app and see your family and all of your family stuff in just one spot. Family proof your family with Life 360's Tile trackers. Visit tile.com and use code ONTexas to get 15% off. That's code ONTexas, tile.com, code ONTexas. They come in packs just like this. Absolutely can get a card, or you can do the little tag. I like the cards personally because it fits in my wallet very easily. All right, that's going to do it. Tile.com / or code, ONTexas.
We've had a lot of great answers.
Yeah.
But, okay, let's separate this. The worst call and the most impactful call, because I think in the chat, the worst calls were in the same game. A ref bumping Charlie Strong and throwing a flag. That was appalling. Other words that could be used, unbelievable. And then Puna Ford getting called for defensive holding. Those were the worst calls I've seen. The Charlie Strong one was unbelievable.
That still is the one that when I asked the question, that was the one I thought of immediately and made my blood boil because the ref initiated it on purpose.
Yes.
Like you could see him lean forward to take the charge, essentially.
The most impactful call was the non-safety against Bama in 2022 because Texas wins that game if they call the safety. That literally cost Texas the game against Alabama. And how quickly would that mean Sark would have beat Bama 2 years in a row? That was a pretty impactful call.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm trying to think. There have been some calls go in Texas's way. I go back to one in the national championship game against USC, where Jamal Charles may have caught the pass and fumbled.
Yeah.
But they went to review and said incomplete pass. That was one that game was hanging in the balance with that one because Texas then went down and scored and made it a one-score game afterwards.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of some other. I mean,
well, the Vince pitch game, the pitch in the USC game.
That was just a bad call, and they didn't get to review quick enough, right?
No.
But
the knee was down.
Yes. Yeah, clearly down. I mean, the Charlie Strong one stands out so much, guys, because of just how this falls.
That wasn't a ref error. That wasn't a human error.
Right.
That was appalling that something like that was done.
Yeah, it pissed me off. That was probably the one because it was just completely unfair. Didn't like how he's being talked to, so let's initiate contact and make something up and put Oklahoma State in field goal range, essentially. After your coach is arguing a defensive holding call that hadn't been called all game, by the way.
Yeah.
That's what kills me about it. It feels like sometimes I actually have a lot of respect for referees because that's a hard job, dude. Yeah. You got 100,000 people, ain't nobody on your side. You're damned if you do, damned if you don't, right? So I have a lot of respect for what they're trying to do, but when they become part of the game is when they just get it wrong, So anyways, I could go on and on, but I think the worst one I've ever seen, I'd agree with Jerry, is the Charlie Strong penalty, personal foul. I mean, Oklahoma State could not complete a forward pass because their quarterback's thumb was out of joint, and yet that penalty gave them the opportunity, hit a 50-yard field goal to go ahead. Just bad stuff.
Yeah, those were the two that came to mind for me as well.
From a Texas standpoint, and I think you can find the old video if you look around, but there was a play where Roy Williams caught the legend at Texas, caught a pass in the back of the end zone, and the ref was clearly a Texas fan. Have y'all seen the video of this?
I have.
When Roy caught a touchdown pass, I was like, whoa. That was wild to see in person.
Oh, man.
That's pretty crazy to see somebody cheering for a guy catching a touchdown pass in the game he's a part of.
Yes, I do remember that. We got a super chat here we need to read from Longhorn Frenzy 1. Thank you, Longhorn Frenzy. As always, we appreciate the generous super chat here on Halloween. And he says, I appreciate the effort with the costumes. I can't stop laughing. Hook 'em.
I think Jerry wins, though, guys.
I don't know. I think Blake wins for effort because it took more than one person.
It did take more than one person.
He had to get the rosy cheeks. I don't know if y'all noticed this, but Blake's wearing some makeup today.
I am.
Cheeks for Petrino. Put yourself up there, Blake, so they can see the rosy
here. Yeah. Trying to get a little bit of the road rash.
Right, road rash.
On there. And I don't like things right in my face, and my wife had to deal with it. So props to her for helping me out. So I appreciate that. And then Major Alexander says, this might be the best episode ever. I love the costumes. Well, Major, we love the super chat. We appreciate it. And kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier, guys, this one here from Mike. Mike wants to know, is it a foregone conclusion that Ewers goes pro after the season? If his play continues to be shaky, does he consider another college season?
No, I think he's headed off to next chapter. I just think that's where it's at. I mean, look, he's going to be a drafted football player. His last 4 games and his workouts and everything will kind of tell the story there. I think the A&M, like I said earlier, I think the A&M game is going to be really big for his draft status, coming off the Georgia game, because it's going to be the other team that has a defensive front that can totally affect you the whole game. If you don't think that, just go watch Garrett Nussmeier last week and how much duress he played under with a really good offensive line in front of him. That's actually is what the NFL wants to see. They want to see how these guys play when it's not clean. But no, I think this is his final year in college.
Definitely think it's his final year. And Jerry, I would challenge one thing you said. It's the last 3 games.
Yeah, sure.
Arkansas has a good defensive front. Kentucky certainly has a good defense among everything that they have. And then A&M.
Yeah.
So I think, it's not just, like I said, when we got going, it's not just A&M, although I think they're the toughest match, to Jerry's point. I mean, it's this whole final 4 games. I mean, he could go up the ladder or down the ladder based on this. I mean, I do think that there's a level that he won't surpass going downward because of his arm talent, but how he reacts and leads over the next 4 games, incredibly important for his draft stock. Incredibly important. And for Texas football future.
Yeah.
For this season.
No doubt.
And we're going to stay on the draft talk here. We got a super chat from Longhorn Nation. Thank you. And he says, Matthew Golden and Trey Moore coming back for another year would boost their draft stock.
Trey Moore, maybe, but here's the thing with the, and I don't agree on Matthew Golden. I think the thing with Matthew Golden is it's more than the targets and yards receiving he has. It's that he plays the most snaps of any wideout on a loaded roster. And when the NFL comes and talks to Sark, they're going to be like, he's going to be like, look, this guy transferred in. He picked up everything. He became the guy that our quarterback relied on earliest and most. And he is strong in the red zone. And he is always where he's supposed to be. He's a willing blocker. He's got to get better at it. But the interesting thing to me with Matthew Golden is you go back to high school stuff sometimes. And Matthew Golden and Jaden Blue were on the same team. And Jaden Blue was the very highly ranked running back prior to his senior year, before he sat out his senior year. And when I went to Klein Kane, I said, who's your best football player? Period. Your best player. Everybody said Matthew Golden. And it's kind of interesting how the recruiting rankings, now we ranked him pretty high. I was part of national rankings at On3 at the time. We ranked him really high. But I saw him, I think, 4 times. But it's interesting how some of these things kind of end up being true. And that's not a shot at Jaden Blue. Good player. But Matthew Golden he played Wildcat quarterback, receiver. He was the punter. He was the punt returner. He played everywhere and did everything for Klein Kane. So you knew he had a very high football intelligence, football IQ about him, an ability to handle a lot of information and go play the game. It's kind of carried over to college for him.
I think you're right about that. So he's a maximizer, Jerry.
Yep.
Those guys that play all these multiple positions, they tend to maximize. Now, whether or not in sports, by the way, if they succeed in other sports, that's a tell for me as well. The thing that I would add to this is the Sarkisian element that you brought up at the outset. I mean, look, if Sark, checks you off as far as a receiver, and you know that they've got 5 or 6 guys that have NFL talent in that room, and you're already beating those 3 or 4 other guys out, that says something.
Yeah.
And, I'm not saying we all know Sark is branded as a quarterback guy. He's getting ready to be one as a wide receiver guy too, because all 3 of those guys playing in the NFL and not playing poorly, by the way,
right,
matters. And so I think that some of that is going to rub off, because he also, the offense Texas runs is very similar to a lot of NFL offenses. And so they know it's complicated for the receivers, and they have to react. I think Jerry made a good point there. I really do. Right out of the gate with the actual Sark element of making it difficult on his receivers. It's not easy to just walk in and be it. And you have to have the brains for it. And Golden did. He showed it.
And in his second game at Texas against Michigan.
Yeah.
He impacted winning in a big way in that game, right out of the gate. So that, I think that was just a sign of, and Matthew Golden plays the most snaps of any wideout. I mean, that's saying something on this team. Now, Isaiah Bond did miss a game, but Golden still plays the most snaps in a game in, game out basis of any wide receiver at Texas. That says a lot. That means Sark trusts him 100% in his offense. On Trey Moore, it's interesting. Trey Moore he's played really good in this role. I think he needs to get, finish more plays, sacking the quarterback. But for a guy like that in an NFL draft, he's not going to grow taller. His arms aren't going to get any longer. So sometimes it's, from a production standpoint, you should probably come back, get 5 sacks next year, and improve your stock. But physically, nothing's really going to change. You kind of are what you are in the eyes of the NFL scouts, because all they're doing is looking for warts when it comes draft time anyway. So the same things they're going to be wondering about Trey Moore in the NFL, it's not going to change a year from now.
I am in my thing on Trey is I don't think it necessarily changes his draft stock, but it does allow him to get a little bit stronger, Jerry, put a little bit more film on against elite competition, and maybe work on some pass rush moves. So I see what you're saying. I mean, I get it. I think that the people that don't appreciate Trey Moore or didn't appreciate Trey Moore prior to the Vanderbilt game now understand what he is in this defense, by the way. They now appreciate him for what he is. Contain, yes. Can still get after the quarterback a little bit. Quickness, yes. All-around player, yes. If you didn't appreciate him before Vanderbilt, I think you do now.
Yeah.
So that was a good thing that happened for Trey Moore, in my opinion.
Right. And Corey J wants to know, Blue talked about leaving for the draft all preseason, and that's probably not going to happen. How do you rotate Baxter, Blue, and Trey Wisner next season? There's a good chance that Blue falls to running back 3.
Well, I think it's fair.
Yeah, a lot depends on what does Cedric Baxter look like when he comes back off the injury. Is he ready to be the guy in September, or is it going to be second half of the season for him? Is it the first half of the season, get your feet back underneath you, getting your confidence back, getting accustomed to that contact again, and then you're a different player to last? Sometimes it takes these guys a full year of playing after they get back from that injury before they kind of get back to where they were. So a lot of that will depend on where Cedric Baxter's at. Look, I think, Jaden Blue, I mean, all these guys want to go pro, but he doesn't have the production. It's a great, I'd say great, probably great in terms of depth running back draft in 2025. We talked about it before the season. I mean, obviously Jainty's a first rounder. Marion Hampton at North Carolina is really good. You can just go down the list. There is a number of really good NFL draft prospects at running back in this class, and they all have production. So I think Blue has a role potentially, but it'll be interesting to see what he does. And Jared Gibson will be a sophomore, and James Simon's going to be ahead of the game from a understanding of the position. He's a midterm guy. Obviously, Ricky Stewart's a midterm guy, has a frame similar to Trey Wisner, so I think he may need some time to build up that frame. But see how Christian Clark comes back off his Achilles. I mean, that's probably going to take him some time to, even when he gets cleared, to get back to being comfortable and confident in where he looked like he was headed before the injury. So how Baxter and Christian Clark come back absolutely impact running back next year.
I'm going to say this. I think Jaden Blue's gone. I don't care where you think he might be drafted or what we think he might be. Just think he is. I think that he's got his eyes set on that. To your point, in the preseason, that was the talk. My take on Jaden Blue, though, is a little bit different about why he's running back 3. I think he's currently miscast at Texas. And it's because Cedric Baxter isn't there. Jaden Blue was never meant to be RB1.
No.
Okay. He was always, in my opinion, he was always going to be that boutique running back that really scared the you-know-what out of people in the flats, like Sark did with Keelan Robinson. He's been, and I know people, oh, well, he's a real running back now. He ran for 25 times for 100 and something yards against UTSA, et cetera, okay, or whatever it was. I can't remember the game. My point, okay, is he's never been that guy, and he's miscast as that guy. The NFL will not sign him in that role.
No.
They'll sign him as the boutique guy that catches the ball out in the flats, tries to play on third downs, and gets matchups one-on-one over the middle against a linebacker, like Texas scored on against Georgia. So my take on this is not so much where Jaden Blue is. I want Jaden Blue in a role that allows him to be his best version of himself. Right now, I think he's slightly miscast, and that's out of necessity.
Yeah,
because of Cedric Baxter's injury.
I agree.
So people are down on Jaden Blue a little bit, perhaps, but I think he's miscast and been forced into a role that isn't necessarily his strength.
We have more super chats, fellas. This one here from Jack. Jack, we appreciate it as always. He says, Bobby, what's Jenny gonna wear?
She was wearing a bunch of gray this morning, and so I was thinking 50 Shades of Gray, but yeah. Penalty flag for me.
Down yourself.
Yeah. I just got in trouble probably.
And then Edmund Lee, thank you, Edmund. He says, happy Halloween from New Braunfels, drinking Texas pecan and enjoying the cooler weather, getting ready for the final games of the SEC championship drive season. Hook 'em.
Hook 'em, Edmund. I love me some New Braunfels, by the way, guys. What a great town. Just a great town. And then I think Jerry's going to go back into costume for the final few minutes here, guys. For those of you guys just getting in, Jerry is now going back into costume for people that missed it earlier. All right, welcome me back in. Make sure the Florida State shirt is in there.
Probably a wise choice.
That is not DJU's dad, by the way. That is a true Florida State fan.
Yeah.
Right
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. Major Alexander, we thank you. He says the best thing that can happen to Quinn is for Quinn to go to a team where he can sit and develop for a few years. The NFL has shown over the last 10 years that they ruin young quarterbacks starting too early in their careers.
That's one of the reasons Quinn came back. We talked about it all year. He wanted to have 25-plus starts in college football and be prepared for what the NFL had to offer. So I agree with you. I don't think Quinn needs to be pressed into immediate service. That may not be best for what's not only his mental ability right out of the gate, but his physical ability. I mean, there's going to be an amped up level of hitting in the NFL. And so Quinn's still got some work to do there. But I do think he's on the right track. I just hope that we see improvement these last 4 games. These are going to be big for his draft stock as well as University of Texas, period.
Somebody asked about Justice Terry. I mean, look, Texas is they're in the fight there, but I'm going to say the same thing I have said many times is since Kirby's been at Georgia, the 5-star defensive players in that state that they feel like they have to have, they just haven't lost many of those. So we'll see what happens.
All right, we got more questions, more super chats. But before we get to those, Bobby, I'm going to let you tell everyone out there about Flat Creek.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you know that the most awarded wine in Texas is actually the vineyard closest to Austin? That's right. Flat Creek Estate Winery is just minutes from downtown, and they've won award after award this year for their vintage wine, the Super Texan. Super Texan is now available at your local Specs, so give it a try. Of course, Flat Creek is also a gorgeous venue. You can see it here. It's just absolutely jaw-dropping. With barbecue, wine tastings every single weekend. It's perfect for a day date with your significant other. That's Flat Creek Estate Winery. Check it out. Neil, Sean, Eva, all those guys out there at Flat Creek just do a tremendous job with this place. Me and Rod Babers went out there a couple months ago, guys. And when I say jaw-dropping, it is truly gorgeous. Hopefully for the Florida game, myself and my wife, Jenny, can get out there and see Flat Creek Estate.
Thank you for that, Bobby. And more super chats, as I said. And we're going to start here with Archmania. He says, is our recruiting getting to the place where new recruits can overtake seasoned players? Who most likely is to be a day one starter in 2025?
I mean, aren't we seeing that with Leonga LaFau right now? Isn't that a one? Isn't I mean, look, Jelani McDonald. I mean, we could say that they missed Andrew Makuba, but did they against a Vanderbilt run-heavy team? There are a lot of guys like this. DeAndre Moore kind of beat out Silas Bolden, who's more experienced. There are a lot of guys like this where the recruits are starting to do a little bit of that. You know, the one thing I will say, and Jerry, if you're good, you will play.
Yes.
That is, and I'm trying to say it the right way without, you know, that doesn't mean other guys aren't good that are already starting. But if you're really good as a freshman or sophomore, you're going to show up. You're going to find your way onto the field. And I'll give you an example. Alex January. Okay. Not super highly rated. You know what? He finds his way on the field because he's going to be a really, really good football player long-term. And he's already showing signs of that. Now, that doesn't take into account the superstar guys like a Colin Simmons or Anthony Hill or Manny Muhammad from last year. If you're good, really, truly good, you will play. You'll find yourself on that football field.
I saw one Tuesday, yes. Myron Charles. Look, Myron Charles Josiah Sharma, those guys are midterm graduates. But I want to talk about Myron Charles for a second. Golly, he used to be committed to FSU. This is crazy to do this right now. But Myron is, all of 6'4". He's up to about 305 pounds. He's got the 80-inch wingspan. He's got skinny ankles. He's got 10.5-inch hands. But what I saw how hard he practiced on Tuesday in week 9 of a high school season, coming off their biggest win of the season against Naples, that guy was a maximum effort practice player Tuesday. And since he's an early enrollee with that frame, I think Myron Charles is going to be a guy that plays quite a bit as a freshman because he's physically gifted. He's got natural strength. He's got that athleticism. He's got the initial quickness, first, second step. But since he's an early enrollee, I expect Myron Charles to come in and push a little bit at Texas. And Josiah Sharma, I can't say the same because he missed half his senior year due to transfer rules. So we'll have to see on his adjustment. But what I saw from Myron Charles Tuesday, he's going to push. He's going to push for time as a freshman.
Jerry, you're calling him Myron or Myron? Is there? It's Myron is what he goes by. Okay, yeah. All right. That because I had always just thought it was Myron. Good stuff.
I know. Sad. It's a LL says sad FSU fan talking about Myron Charles. Yeah.
And Javian Hilton, and others. Kevin Wynn. Apparently, they're going to lose a couple more. Is what people are saying. Florida State right now, man. And I'm not talking about games. I'm talking about recruits.
Yeah.
They're 1-7. I mean, how do you go from? I mean, they literally on the cusp of the college football playoffs last year, and
now they're costume on Texas football.
How the mighty have fallen.
8 games into the season. By the way, somebody's asking about Jonah Williams. Fractured left clavicle. It'll be interesting. Obviously, his high school season's over, and Galveston Ball's having a really good season. They lost. But Blake, any impact? What are you thinking on baseball there since it is his left and he's a lefty pitcher?
Yeah, I think, and I talked to somebody about this, and it sounds like baseball's in wait and see mode right now. Because they were, and I reported this on Texas Football a few weeks ago, that they wanted to bring him in, start him as a pitcher, and then go from there. But he was definitely, that was going to be his role his freshman year. So how this impacts it, we'll have to wait and see, just like they are. But I don't know, it's going to be an interesting situation to watch. That's for sure.
His brother Nick Williams, who was a draft pick in MLB, I think a sandwich selection, had the same injury in high school. So it's kind of interesting how the family's dealt with that one before.
Wow. More super chats, fellas. This one from Longhorn Nation. Thank you, Longhorn Nation. Who's somebody on the team that's not playing much right now, but that y'all think will have an impact before they leave Texas?
Is this counting red shirts is the question. Because the 3 offensive linemen in this class are all going to be really good from what I hear. Bobby, I think you've heard the same thing.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but great things on all 3. Brandon Baker. We're talking about Brandon Baker, Daniel Cruz, and Nate Kibble.
And Nate Kibble's surprised because he wasn't an early enrollee, and he's done very well. Santana Wilson, KD 35. Yes, Texas likes him. Ryan Nelson, Jordan Washington. Agree on Jordan Washington. I think it's a really strong class of freshmen that Texas fans aren't seeing right now, Bobby.
I'm trying to think of sophomores, though, that's not playing much right now. And I'm not going to mention, obviously, Arch Manning.
Ty Anthony Smith.
He's a freshman, though.
Yeah.
I mean, look, a week ago, I could have said Jelani McDonald. Right? He wasn't playing much. Boswick's a good one. That's a really good one, Jerry. Because when he's played, he's made plays. You know what I mean? So he's been productive. Look, the Texas defense right now, they need more playmakers, and they always need to keep grabbing more playmakers. My piece on it for all of this is once they get there, they need that. They have done a great job of just upping the talent level and productivity of all their guys. Yeah, they're all productive. Like you mentioned of Vosick, he comes in. Ethan Burke. I mean, look, he came in and immediately affected the game on Saturday. I mean, they've got depth on defense, and I think they're recruiting guys that play through contact on defense and guys that are productive. And then you sprinkle in some true playmakers like an Anthony Hill, like maybe a Colin Simmons, and all of a sudden you have a really, not only a smart defense, but a defense that is one of the best in the country. And that's where the Longhorns are right now.
Another super chat here from Clay K. He says, Blake, I don't know about you, but I spent the last few innings of that baseball game last night wearing my Rangers World Championship t-shirt and soaking up the llast few moments that we had as reigning world champs.
I still can't believe, guys, and look, I didn't watch it live, but on the move, but I still can't believe those guys literally yanked the ball, held Mookie Betts' arms, could have injured him, could have pulled his shoulder out of socket and took a ball out of his glove.
Yeah, that's
embarrassing, man. That's pathetic. I mean, they could have injured him. They're holding his wrist. They could have pulled his shoulder out. I mean, that's unbelievable. Those two idiots did that.
I can believe the pulling the ball out of the glove. The risk of injury there is the problem. Right, Jerry?
Yeah.
I mean, we've all been fans before. I can see somebody trying to knock the ball out of his glove, but you don't start putting your hands on a player or a person, period.
Yeah, that's just blatant.
Yeah, exactly. There's one thing to be funny, ha, like that guy sitting there laughing. I mean, you just don't put your hands on the player. I will say this, and I want to say congratulations to them. A former Longhorn, or I shouldn't say Texas X, Bobby Patton, a Fort Worth native, is one of the owners of the Dodgers. So congratulations to him and his friends winning the World Series. That's big time stuff for them. Freddie Freeman is Hall of Fame bound, no doubt about it, man. And he had a hell of a World Series.
Ryan Nelson, thank you for your super chat. He says, Bobby, Brian Ranch ran a 4.58 at the combine, but since high school, you could see he was an NFL player. I expect Barron to run better, so I see him being a day 2 guy.
But potentially, yeah. I mean, Brian Branch, saw him in high school. Yes. I mean, and Brian Branch was considered a 4.6 guy that was a really good football player out of high school when he signed out of the state of Georgia, Atlanta area with Alabama. Had him in Under Armour camps back in the day. Really, really good football player. Good comparison as far as testing goes. Hey, by the way,
I hope he runs better than that. I hope he runs better than that.
Yeah, I hope so too. I want to mention something on basketball recruiting. That John Clark, top 50 prospect in the country, 6'9" power forward, will announce his decision Friday at 5 p.m. Central. It'll be Texas or Houston. Really, really talented guy. I think he's definitely a pro one day. He was at Klein Cain, same high school as Matthew Golden and Jaden Blue. He's up at Link Prep as a senior in Missouri, same school that Trey Johnson moved to his senior season. But John Clark will announce his decision Friday at 5 p.m. Texas or Houston is my expectation. I know Kansas and A&M are in the Final Four. I don't think it's that. I think he was always a guy that's going to stay in state, and I think it's coming down to Texas and Houston.
How good is he, Jerry? Top 50? What?
Top 50? 10? Yeah, he's ranked anywhere from like 35 to 45 nationally, but I think he's a guy that'll be a pro. He's trained with TJ Ford down in Missouri City for years, so he's another big coming out of TJ Ford Academy with guard skills. He can play, not guard skills necessarily, but he trains those guys like guards, kind of like they do the bigs in Europe before they come over to the States. So he's a very skilled guy. He's got a skilled set around him, but he's also a strong, physical kid, about 6'9", 210. I think he's going to be a pro player. Now, I'm not saying a first-round draft pick in the NBA. That stuff has to play out, but he's going to have a career in pro basketball. He's a really talented kid.
Hey, I want to take this moment. Thanks for bringing up the basketball recruiting stuff, Jerry. I want to take this moment to say we've got a special guest coming on today, later tonight, actually. we're going to have an interview with Rodney Terry, Texas men's basketball coach, that will air later today. We appreciate him stopping by and taking time out. Me and Jerry will be conducting that interview a little bit later. But Jerry, talk a little bit about Longhorns. You seem to think that there's a young man named Trey Johnson.
Oh, gosh.
That has a chance to be a special player at Texas based on what you're hearing through the first two behind-the-scenes scrimmages they've had with Colorado and TCU. Tell people a little bit, because I know not a lot of people pay attention to basketball recruiting, or at least as much as they do football recruiting, and that's understandable. But once they get on the court, you're hearing Trey Johnson right now really looking like an elite player for the Longhorns.
Yeah, guys started watching in high school, late freshman year, early sophomore year. Been one of the best prospects in the country, 6'6" shooting guard. Well, he's going to be a first-round pick. The question is he going to be a lottery pick, top 10 pick in a really deep draft? Last year's NBA draft was horrible, maybe the worst ever. This draft is tremendous, but he is a well-rounded offensive basketball player. I expect him to shoot 38, 30 to 39, 40% from three this season as a college freshman, legit 6'6". The thing that go with the talent for him is watching them in a practice before the Mississippi State football game. He has a toughness and a willingness to speak his mind at a young age on an experienced team. And we'll talk to Rodney Terry about this in this interview coming up. But he has a fearlessness about him and a toughness about him that the best players that have come through Texas had. You know, Kevin Durant may have been a skinny guy, and I'm not comparing him as a player. Kevin Durant's the best pure basketball player that's ever played at Texas. And no, I don't think we'll ever see anything like that again. But KD was a fearless, tough kid, even though he's really skinny. TJ Ford, fearless, tough guy, even though he was smaller than most people, but he was blessed athletically. DJ Augustine, tough, fearless kid. Trey Johnson falls in line. Texas has had tremendous point guards come through, TJ, DJ, some really good bigs. They had one of the best players that's ever played this game at small forward, Kevin Durant, who had one of the best freshman seasons of all time in college basketball. In my years, Texas has never had a 6'6" shooting guard that's as talented as Trey Johnson. So this is a position that Texas, they've had a lot of lottery picks in the last 20 years. They haven't had a 6'6" shooting guard like this kid. He had 31 in the closed-door scrimmage against Colorado. I think we'll get into the interview with Rodney. I think Texas fans are going to like this team, though, because they're the bigger guards, a more versatile group. They have a chance to play a better pace this year. So we'll get into all that with Rodney Terry coming up later. We'll have that interview for you later on. But Trey Johnson is he's going to be a freshman. He may first, second team freshman All-American if he stays healthy, and he may be a top 7-8 pick in the draft. We'll see how the season goes, but he's a definite first rounder, potential lottery guy. Avery Bradley, Huey P. Long says Avery Bradley, tough, fearless. It's amazing what all those guys have in common as a freshman.
We got time for just a couple more questions, guys. But before we do, I need to let everyone know about Austin Underground and Rick Valbro and the folks at Austin Underground have specialized in difficult underground installations since 2004. Their extensive engineering background gives them the ability to perform work that many other firms consider too risky. They offer an end-to-end client experience that includes seamless communication, budgeting, staffing, top-notch trade partners, and solid quality work every single time. If you have a commercial project that needs a best-in-class solution, then contact the folks at Austin Underground, and we want to thank them for being a sponsor of Coffee and Football each and every Thursday. All right.
Hey, Jerry, you got to move your camera down a little bit so people can get the full effect
of the Florida State.
You got to get the paper bag at the top. There you go, buddy. Look at that.
Back away.
Oh, goodness.
Happy Halloween.
So many thoughts go through your head when you put this costume on. Jimbo's last year at FSU, this season at FSU. It's just, I kind of did this on short notice, but I'm happy you guys are having fun with it.
Are they ruining not taking Dion? That's a question for Florida State fans. You know, the prodigal son could return. but not happening. In retrospect, what do you think? That's a fair question. They allowed Bobby Petrino to return to Arkansas, and look what he's doing with their offense, Blake.
I know.
Ron Wilson asked that I told Willie Taggart about the costume.
Boy,
this could go a lot of places.
Years
at FSU.
All right, we'll do 2 more questions here. And this first one from Dean. He says, when the season started, we all agreed that we had the best quarterback room. Is that still your opinion?
Oh, that's a fair question. I think they still do, because I don't think Texas is just 2 deep. I think Texas is 3 deep, guys. I'm really high on Trey Owens right now, based on what I've heard and based on what I've seen. Very, very high on him. He does not have great feet, but he has functional mobility in the pocket, and he's such a big guy that he can get the ball out, Jerry. And I think he sees things and reacts to things very quickly. Yeah, I still think I love Texas QB room. You know, I do. Best in the country. I don't know who I would trade it for. Not trading it for A&Ms. You know, they've had 2 different guys go through things. Not trading it with Ohio State. Not trading Clemson. Not trading, Miami. Cam Ward may be a guy. Dylan Gabriel may be a guy individually, right, that you'd rather have, but not the room as a whole. Not the room as a whole. I still think it's possible Arch Manning is a 1-1 guy. So I'm not trading it for anything.
And then our last one for today will be a super chat from Jeff Carey. It says, happy Halloween. What's the scariest realistic scenario for our last 4 games?
Ooh. Oh, that's easy. The scariest?
Losing.
I mean, I hate to say it. You lose at Arkansas and you lose at A&M and don't make the playoff, losing the 2 of your 3 hated rivals. That's the scariest scenario.
That is scary.
Yeah, mine's just losing to A&M.
And they make the play. Oh, well, so let's back that up.
I don't even want to go there. I don't want to.
No. Here's how crazy it could get at the end of the year. Say A&M drops a game, either South Carolina or Auburn. Just say they do. Say Texas drops a game, and they're both 9-2, and only the winner gets in the playoffs. That's a scary scenario. Winner goes,
beat their butts.
Loser stays home.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Texas is going to be. Something tells me that Texas should have a good offensive game against A&M, because I think Sark should be ready for that. And if he's not, then he's going to get welcomed to that rivalry in a very sad way. But he better be ready for that. Period.
Marco Mendez has a good question I want to bring up. The chat's moving fast. Not a hotel, but I went to an area to see some really good players one time, and the coach was like, "You got to get out of here by dark." I was like, "Dang, man, really?" He's like, "Oh yeah, too dangerous." That I'm sure Bobby's been to a couple of places like that, but that's not a hotel, but it's not always just always fun. Sometimes the coach is like, "Hey man, you got to get out of here at a certain time." Pretty scary.
I don't know that I've ever stayed at a scary motel on a recruiting trip. I've been to some places that didn't. I got told that when I was in the up in New York City, actually, there was a recruit at a school up there, and the coach had one of his assistants come meet me at a chain link fence to bring my car into the chain link inside the chain link fence, and then the coach said the assistant had to sit with the rental car while I met with the coach and the player, and that was just customary practice for any coach or visitor going to that school for the player for whatever reason. So there we go.
All right, y'all. Well, that's going to do it for today's Halloween edition of Coffee and Football, presented by Rick Vavro and Austin Underground. We want to thank them, along with Tile and Flat Creek, all for sponsoring today's show. And I got to thank my wife, or I'm going to be in trouble, for helping me with my costume as well.
Mine too, for sure.
Yes, thank you, Chris.
Jerry didn't have any help.
No.
Jerry, by the way, the great thing about this costume is not the paper bag and looking like a New Orleans Saints fan for Florida State. It's the fact that he's wearing a female T-shirt. You took one for the team today, Jerry Hamilton.
By the way, the best thing about this costume is I'm saving this for another team next year.
You don't have to spend much money at all.
No, I look, this costume travels. You just got to change the shirt next year. Maybe is it going to be a Dak Prescott jersey next year for all the Cowboys fans?
It don't have to be next year. It can be right now.
I know, just not enough time. I don't think Rodney Terry would appreciate that in the interview coming up.
Is he a Cowboys fan?
I think so. I'm gonna have to ask him.
Okay, gotcha.
Oh goodness! All right, y'all. Well, first, Bobby, I know we got the interview coming up with Rodney Terry, but what's later today?
Yeah, we got a bunch of stuff coming up. Not only the Rodney Terry interview, Jerry, you've got the SEC show, as well as Football Theory with Bob and Bob Shipley, Coach Bob Shipley, and Rod Babers, as well as stuff going on all across on Texas football. CJ's going to have some stuff that are stats that I think you guys are going to like. Jerry's on the road recruiting right now after he gets out of this get up he's got on right now. But a lot of stuff going on. Please join us over at ontexasfootball.com if you get an opportunity. We'll be there all week and all day. Use the code OTFOG for a subscription, just $39.95 for 1 full year of ontexasfootball.com.
Hey, Blake, I need you to wear that outfit again. Week of Arkansas game.
You want me to do it the whole week?
Probably.
Okay, well, we will be back same time, same place tomorrow. So for Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton, I'm Blake Monroe, and we'll see you then. Have a great Halloween.